Good morning, San Joaquin County. I'm Raj Singh, and I have a good Atwal today this morning with us. And we're here with our San Joaquin County's the District Attorney, Tori Weber, to know about such a sad incident that took place last year. And Gurtej, can you brief us about this incident, and then we'll hear from Tori.
Thank you, Raj, and thank you, Tori, for giving us your time. So on 25th of August in 2019, Paramjit Singh was stabbed to death on his routine walk in Tracy's Gretchen Park. Since then, Tracy PD and the DA's office, they are working diligently on this case. It's an ongoing investigation, so we want to thank Tori for her time to share us with where we are with this aspect and what the future looks like.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to be here, and thank you for your continued support throughout the Valley. Working with the Sikh community is a privilege and an honor, and I've seen and been working with both of you gentlemen quite a bit this summer with COVID and helping to feed the homeless and to help so many families struggling in need. So thank you, Sister Tracy, and for everything you do continuously through this community, and thank you for supporting the family during this very, very difficult time. And I would like to take a moment just to ask everybody to keep in their thoughts and prayers. Mr. Singh's family, they're incredibly brave and courageous, and they've been incredible to work with throughout this past year, which I can only describe as being a terrible, terrible time in their life. So I want to thank them for their bravery, their courage, and their partnership in working with us, and thank you as well for the continued support that you've given to the community. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Tori, and we're here to listen or hear from you about, like Gurtej said, what's happening with this case. And we know, as per the news media published the news, the person who was arrested for this such a sad incident that took place has been released. Can you tell us a little bit about this case? What's happening? Where are we going with this?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Because this case is an ongoing investigation, I cannot go into the details of the case, but I can tell you about the process. Traditionally, what happens in an investigation such as this, and the magnitude of this, which is the unlawful taking of a human being's life, Mr. Singh, it is the brutal and terrible act, and it has to be recognized, swiftly investigated, and processed in a timely manner for us in order to seek justice. But in order for us to do so, we have to meet certain thresholds. And some of those thresholds require a preliminary hearing. And a preliminary hearing is before a judge, a magistrate. The judge is the sole decider of the information that they receive and the evidence they receive, and then they make a determination if we have met that legal standard and threshold that's recognized throughout the state of California, and if so, they'll allow the case to proceed. If we have not produced enough evidence in order to meet that threshold, the court will not allow us to proceed, but that does not eliminate us from going forward. And so in circumstances such as this, the threshold, if you could put kind of a numerical attachment to it, is in the 50 to 60% of convincing of an individual that there's enough evidence to go forward. At jury trial, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, which is closer to 90%, 90+%, for individuals to believe that the evidence is sufficient to hold this person accountable for these acts. So in this circumstance, what we did is we put on 3 days of testimony, which on average, our prelims are about a half a day long. So we did 3 days of testimony, 17 witnesses, including digital, forensic, and law enforcement and civilian witnesses. During the course of that 3 days, all of the evidence was presented to the court. And at the end of that proceeding, the court is, and rightfully so, they're entitled to make this decision. It determined that we had not met that threshold to proceed forward. What that meant is that we had a couple options. One, we can rebook the defendant and try the case again, but the problem is we only have 10 days in all likelihood to do so, because most defendants will pull their time waiver, and that would have given us a 10-day period to reevaluate this case, to reevaluate the evidence and the performance, and look for additional avenues for successful prosecution. Or we allow, we release and we don't rebook the individual, and that would allow us more time to do the work that we needed to do. So based on the totality of the circumstances and in consultation with Tracy Police Department, which did an outstanding job, and in this investigation, it is a circumstantial evidence case. It is, are always the toughest cases to prove. And we worked closely with them. We made the determination that we were going to allow the individual to be released at this time in order for us to reboot and take an opportunity to look at that evidence and move it forward. And so that's what occurred in this case, and it occurs in many cases that if this process is the same for any case, I should say.
So, from that aspect, as you mentioned that the case will be reassessed, will other agencies will be requested or they will be involved to assist with the reassessment?
I know we've already had multiple meetings with Tracy Police Department and my team. I've brought in another prosecutor as well to look and evaluate and make determinations on our case. And they're bringing in every tool and resource they have. They're using every bit of technology. I have been working with Tracy Police Department for the last 30 years. They're an outstanding police department. During the course of this investigation, I was with them. They were up 72 hours straight in pursuit of justice and using every tool, resource, and sparing no expense in order to ascertain any of the evidence that we could on this case. They're hardworking and diligent, but like all of us in law enforcement, we welcome anybody and any help that we can get. So if that's a determination that people want to do, we welcome it. We always allow any agency that wants to come in, whether it be the feds or the state, to look at our work and evaluate it, make a determination, see if we met the threshold or if we missed an opportunity. We welcome that. Our door is always open, and we will always work with any agency that so seeks help. But I can tell you that what I have seen, and I have worked on hundreds of homicides, unfortunately, over the last 3 decades. They put together they worked hard on this case. And to their credit, and really to the honor and respect that I have for Tracy Police Department, they already are going page by page, inch by inch. I met with their team a couple days ago, and they had a war room going on looking at this case and evaluating how they could and what we could do to ensure a more successful pathway going forward. So yeah, they're working this case very hard, and so is my office. We've assigned a detective, attorneys, and resources to take a look at this and make a determination of how and what we can do going forward.
So just a little bit follow-up on that, Tori. So as you mentioned, so you will welcome the state and the federal level agencies. So from the technicality perspective, so who can approach them, the citizens, or your department would be approaching them if needed?
All the above can. As citizens, you can reach out to your congressman or to your state assembly or senate members and seek assistance. We have a wonderful working relationship with the state and the Fed. We work many cases combined with them. We're working on large-scale projects with them right now, as a matter of fact. So they're regularly in our office. They're outstanding partners, and they will bring every tool and resource they have available. And the feds do have significant resources, so they will bring those to the table, and their door is always open. They're a great partner for us. And like I said, every day of the week, we work in partnership with them on a number of different cases, from theft to PPD theft, identity theft, to narcotics, to guns, to human trafficking, to homicides. We work with the state and feds every day, 7 days a week, and they're outstanding partners. So we will also seek any assistance from them as well that is necessary. And you too, as a community member, can always seek any of their assistance as well.
Thank you, Tori. And the last thing is, as a Tracy resident or overall the San Joaquin County residents, is there any assistance can be provided by the residents to the Tracy PD if there is any information they should be contacting local law enforcement?
Great question. First of all, thank you, Tracy, because when this occurred, there was, and you gentlemen, we talked during the course of this, and thank both of you. You were leaders in the community, and we had vigils, we gathered information, we had rewards offer. And one of the most powerful things of that, because the people have the power, and they have the power to create that change. And because of this, now Tracy has done an outstanding job, and the city council deserves credit, and the police chief, an incredible chief you have there. They have implemented significant changes in the parks for digital awareness. So we have more video, more opportunity to see who is coming and going, and if any harm is occurring in those parks, we have that capability now. And I think they're near completion of doing that in most parks as well. And so if from such a horrible tragedy, if there's something good that can come from it, it is that the community is in a better place and a safer place because of this technology and allowing us the ability to have better access and resources. So I think that's an incredible opportunity. And because what I would ask is take a moment to think back to August 25th of 2019. Did you see something? It might be so small, but if it's something that might connect the dots on something much larger, if you remember something, or even the days leading up to August 25th, if you've seen a pattern or individuals in the park or anything that it seems suspicious, please speak up. And if you know something, please speak up. Mr. Singh's life should not have been taken on this day, nor should it have anybody's. And we, the people, are the ones who can stop this. We can raise our voice, we can bring forth evidence, and we can help and assist in the apprehension of the person or people responsible for these acts. And I think that's critical throughout the county. When you see this kind of harm, whether it be child abuse, domestic violence, rape, or murder, you've got to raise your voice, because it is the people who bring justice, and it is the people who help us solve crime. And we need that right now. And so we are working diligently. We will not stop working on this case. We just did a homicide prosecution that was 10 years old, another that was 20 years old. One thing about murder is the statute of limitation never runs. So it's always an open case, and it's always an ongoing investigation. So we'll continue to use every tool and resource we have. We're more than happy to work with other agencies if that's the route that's chosen. And we hope to be working with you, the people of Tracy, to bring justice for the Singh family.
So,
Thank you so much, Tori, for giving your time this morning to share this information and news with our Sikh community.
Thank you.
So I have another follow-up on this story about the motive. As so you are looking at the evidences and the person who committed this crime, and there would be some certain thresholds to determine the motive behind the crime. So are there some criteria that will lead to change the motive, or how that is determined?
You know, we look at the motive, and sometimes we're able to establish it, and sometimes we're not. Sometimes it's a robbery gone bad, a residential burglary. Sometimes it's domestic violence. Sometimes it's just a crime of opportunity. And sometimes it's so random there is no motive. And when you're looking at it, and I know there's been conversation and dialogue as to, is this a hate crime? Hate crime in California is a tough case to prove, because you're going to have supporting evidence. And to every homicide is hateful. It is absolutely, it's taking the life of another individual. And I do not know why anybody thinks that they're entitled to do that. And we work hard every day to try to bring that number down so that people don't cause. Because when you take the life of another person, not only do you end their journey, but you forever alter the journey of their families, their friends, the people on their neighborhood. It has such a residual impact. We were just looking at data on homicides, and we had 52 homicides last year. We helped over 1,000 survivors. That's how many people were impacted because of it, that got resources and qualified. I would estimate it's significantly more. And that goes to show you how much harm this does and how much healing we have to do to help people process through this. So we look at that, and we provide, and we've had those resources available for the Singh family. Hope is our victim advocate that's been there every step of the way with them, and I'm truly grateful to her. So what we look at, and if you're specifically if it's a hate crime, and like I said, they're all hateful, but the law is different. The law is defined, and we have to comply with the law. And the law is going to require us to prove a high level put forth a high level of evidence. So when you're looking, and I'm just going to talk about a hypothetical case because I can't reflect upon this case. If you're looking at a hypothetical case involving hate, we're going to scan all digital. We're going to look at social media, cell phones, everything possible. And I think, and see if we have any language or dialogue or association with hateful activity. That is going to allow us to move forward if it's based on race or sexual orientation or your faith. That'll allow us those tools. If there's any written or verbal or oral comments that support the hate and that drove you to commit these acts. And so what's difficult on a homicide is generally there's only two people there. One is no longer with us and the other one is most likely not going to admit to that. So if we don't have any of that additional evidence, drawings, graffiti that is hate-based, any of that kind of information, it makes it difficult to move forward. But in every case we exhaust those remedies to see if there's anything that links, anything that can connect us to a crime, and explain the motive as to why somebody would do such a horrible thing as to take the life of an innocent person. And so that has been fully looked at and vetted, and we were unable to move forward with that at this time. As the journey goes on, we will continue to look and we will continue to mine for information to see on any case that leads us to hate, because we have no tolerance for hate here in San Joaquin County, and we will prosecute it to the full extent. We have to have the evidence.
So as Tori, you mentioned that evidence is the key to determine all the aspects. So as the citizens, we are appealing them to please reach out to the law enforcement, provide the additional evidence as you remember or recall something. So in these scenarios, Tori, if somebody reaches for the anonymity and the privacy, so are there criteria for that if a common citizen, they reaches out with the additional evidence?
Sorry, it froze a little bit, so I think the question was for people to reach out to Tracy Police Department to provide any information or evidence of hate, absolutely, on any case. I don't care if it's a petty theft in a grocery store. If there's hate language used or expressed, we need to know about it, and it needs to be reported immediately. And so if they could reach out to Tracy Police Department, that would be fantastic on any case, any time where hate is involved.
Yeah, and for their personal private information, and will they be kept anonymous?
They can request to be kept anonymous. If the evidence is something that we have to present at trial, then we will reach out to them and have that conversation with them. But if if somebody goes into a store and there's video and audio of it, we can use those recordings. Any of those kinds of things. You can reach out anonymously to law enforcement, but if we have to use the evidence in order to prove the elements of the crime, and the penal code is a large book full of laws, and each one of those has elements that have to be met in order for us to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the crime occurred, which is a very high threshold, the highest threshold of all of the criminal justice systems. And so we will, if necessary, they could be called upon to testify. But right now, any information that will lead us in a direction or give us access to something else would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Tori, for all this information and for sharing with us. And thank you for your time and for your team and all your guys' hard work that you've been doing. And we really appreciate it. And I think we can conclude our discussion for today. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity, and I wish all of you health and wellness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.